talking about your return on investment was huge for me. So almost immediately, I wanted to see how I can get money and really pay the system for it, really have it pay for itself. So I started to investigate, and I talked to some different facilities. So there's this one piece called automation. And what it does is it pulls all those codes. For instance, you go in, it was all what we call them one-times. It's all if you go in and you have a lab or you have a cough and you get a chest x-ray. So I had somebody doing about 1,000 of them a day, a coder just sitting there, and she was just coding right from these, whatever the IT people gave her from this list, she would go in, she'd put in those codes, cough, whatever, anemia. So she had all these thousands off of this spreadsheet, and that's what she would do. She would go through and she would code each one and put them into the system. This actually bypasses having anybody touch it. So whatever goes through on that script, or whatever a registration person enters in, if you're getting a lab draw, and if your diagnosis is anemia, it's going to take that anemia, that 285/9, and it's going to bypass everybody, and it's just going to go right to billing. Nobody sees it, nobody touches it, nothing. It just automatically gets sent to billing. That was a huge savings, and if you have anything like that at all, that's almost immediately your return on investment for the system, is doing that automation. And then I started to really investigate, I think it's near the end of my presentation, more of those, can we do that on recurring visits, those people that keep coming in with PTs and OTs. So, I just wanted to really have the system do everything, because again, I didn't want to get rid of coders. I wanted to move those coders to either learn more. I wanted outpatient to be in and in to be out. I wanted everybody cross-trained, and I wanted to really start prepping them for I-10. So I wasn't thinking about eliminating, and I know one vendor, as soon as she came, that was the one thing that they said is, oh, you can reduce your coding staff by this. I'm like, I sort of tuned her out from there. I didn't even want to really pay attention. My goal was not to eliminate coders, and I'm telling you, on this side of the world, now that I'm in on the vendor side, I would do everything. I would retrain coders. Even if they didn't have high quality, I'd probably retrain somebody before I let them go now. Now, that wasn't the way it was in the old days, but I can tell you it's a coder's market out there, and you can't find good quality coders anymore. I think you can, but they can basically name their price. So I think if you have a group, if you have to retrain or do anything, I would invest in that opposed to just releasing people if they're not meeting the actual quality standards. I think, because I did get rid of people, but I think I'd work really hard at just trying to work with them, do some more teaching, do some more education, and get them up to the level that they need to be, because there's not going to be enough of anybody next year. I keep telling that every time I speak. There's not going to be enough coders, there's not going to be enough vendors to support them. It's just going to be really, really crazy. So hold on to them if you can. But back to the automation. I talked to this hospital and she implemented the automation basically because she had the insufficient coding staff. And 80% of her outpatients were automated. Ancillary AR days were reduced by 19%. And this was like within the first few months. She had an immediate. Now, there is a little learning curve with that. So that doesn't mean everybody that installs it is going to automatically have a reduction, or again, it's your garbage going in, garbage going out. She said she had to sit for quite a long time with her registration staff or with the people putting the data in, because they didn't know you couldn't put in a rollout, whatever. Even though we've been saying it forever, it kicks out. It won't go to a coder. It won't go through the system, and a coder actually sends it back anyways, but it will be routed to a coder to review. So she did a lot of education at first and really tried to it takes a while to get those, issues out of the way, but once you have it and everybody's on board with what needs to be put into the system, again, there's just a learning curve. So don't think nobody's going to, even if they tell you, you cannot install it and have no issues. You're going to have issues. That's just the way it's going to be. It's a new technology. So you just have to be patient with that, but she did see a really quick return immediately. And again, if you do that with the automation, you're not, I had my person working 5 days a week. This is going through 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that revenue was immediate. as it was going, unless you have bill holds for some reason. But that was the immediate, and that's just consistently going on. So that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. There's another app that's called the CDI, and that's really for getting more in depth than just your CDI, your clinical documentation improvement. So there's a whole app that would really address a lot of this for you. Again, I won't read everything, but that was important as well. And keep that in mind, because I know a lot of it is just done manually, or maybe your system, you have multiple systems doing it. That's the other thing I was really looking into. What can I eliminate, and what do I have to keep? What's going to work all together, or what can I utilize? Because I was just trying to save money anywhere I can. And I'm just going to give you this a little gimme as well. As you're looking at this, every year when I did my budget, I had my line item for my encoder. Keep in mind, when you get a CAC, you really don't need to have all of that. You're going to need an encoder. You still need to jump out. You still need to obtain your DRG. You still need to have access to your guidelines and to your coding clinics and to all your other references. However, it's going to be minimal. It's not going to be like what you're using now. And why I'm telling you this is now that I'm on this side on the vendor side, there are multiple encoders out there and a lot cheaper. So do your due diligence and really look at that line item in your budget if you're going to seriously look at implementing a CAC. You're not going to utilize that encoder the way you're utilizing it now. So make sure you look. If you can put in one that's cheaper, or if we can come up with an idea and see if there's one that talks to it, whatever you could do, really look at that. I wasn't aware of that back then, but I'm aware of that now. So I like to tell my colleagues to just do your due diligence and make sure you look at that. Auditing, I've been talking to people down here because that's when we were really coming in with the racks. The racks did not hit PA, and I know you were on a different time schedule with us, but the racks did not hit us as bad as what all our other payers did. We were bombarded. RAC started out very slowly for us in Pennsylvania, but we were bombarded by Blue Cross and HD, everybody else. So we started the appeals and starting that whole process like immediately once we started. My problem with that is I have no problem doing the appeal letters. I had no problem trying to, support the codes because I knew, well, there were some things. I mean, I can't say that everything was perfect, but maybe you had a 9671 and it should have been a 72 because a patient died on day 2, right? So if you had a vent on there, we got stuck on that like everybody else. You had an acute rest failure and you shouldn't have, but CDI team put it on. So we had pretty much everything that you did. But on my appeal letters, my biggest challenge was not writing the letters. It was going through that chart and trying to find, where in the world did my coder find this? Where did she find acute diastolic? Because I can't see it anywhere. So the one thing that I really liked about the auditing is they have in the CAC a piece called the code map. And it'll tell you specifically, acute blood loss anemia was found on progress note from 3/2013 and by whoever. If you're writing an appeals letter, that's like somebody's dream right there, right? All you have to do is go into the CAC, see where that code was found, go ahead and do my appeal letter and reference that. It's that easy. That was huge. So auditing to me was really we were spending a lot of time on that. So I really looked at that piece of it. I wanted to see what I could do. And then again, we were getting into the reports. We knew that we were getting hit like everybody else with sepsis, with acute rest failure from the racks, from the other auditors. But I wanted to have more meat. Now, and again, I don't know if this was specific to my facility, but every report I wanted to know. If I wanted to just look at everybody that had a pneumonia but it wasn't a specified organism, I couldn't just look it up in my system. So I have to do a report, send it over to the IT department, wait for them to create it, what time frame do you want it, and it was a very cumbersome type that I had to deal with. So this is immediate reports for you. All that data going in has access to you, and you could just generate a report on anything you wanted to do. I also like the fact that if you wanted to do a stop hold on, you could just say, do not let this chart go on every sepsis until it has a second look at it. And we know now, because with the RACs, they want all that clinical, which it should have been. We coders know it should have been that way from the beginning. But CDI, some of the CDIs were trying to push it a little bit, and then they all started to come back, and now we need that meat in there that we need for those appeal letters. Any kind of report that you want generated, that's the way that's what the system was going to do for me, and I really wanted that. I wanted to look at what some of our other risks may be, because all I knew was what was coming in, but I didn't know what our other risks were. So keep that in mind for auditing. This was actually out of a journal. It was on site. It was Research Journal Perspective in Health Information Management, and this was an article that they had provided, and it was on it that it improves the documentation, coding, compliance, and revenue. Because I think everybody was so focused in on productivity, we weren't thinking about the revenue and everything else that it could definitely provide for us. So there was definitely a 15% improvement in net revenues, which translates to an improved profitability for the facility. They weren't specific in the article as to what facility it was. They were just given this data, just so you sort of knew what the outcomes were. And then definitely a coding accuracy for the facility improved by 42%. I don't know what kind of coding was being done at that place. That's pretty big, I thought. Again, I don't know, but to me, I'm thinking that's really huge.